Okay, we're on Elvis Online, and I'm Joe Krein, and we got Charles Stone. Charles, how you doing?
I'm doing great today, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, can you tell me a little about yourself and where you were born and where you're from?
Sure. I was actually born in Pensacola, Florida. My dad was in the Coast Guard. He moved to Texas within the first year, so I'm a Texan as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, and what did you want to do for a living?
At the time, when I graduated from high school, I really wanted to be a lawyer, but somehow college and I didn't see eye to eye, and so I moved to Dallas and went to work for Texas Instruments. And by fluke, I think you've read in my book, by a very fluke, I got into the entertainment business.
Right, now what was the fluke that got you into the music business?
My neighbors had a band, and ironically, they had a hit record at the time, and they asked me to book them, just make a phone call, and I made more in one phone call than I made in a week working for Texas Instruments. So it got my attention real quick. So then I went to work for a national booking agency, and then Concerts West came to town. I went with them, and the rest was history.
Now, what was your job for Concerts West, Charles?
I was a promoter. We actually bought and promoted shows all over America. The company nationwide did about 500 shows a year.
Now, because I know you, could you just say some of the different groups that you Concerts West did?
We did most of the Led Zeppelin shows, Chicago, Three Dog Night, all of the rock groups of the year. Actually, I got to work one Jimi Hendrix show here in Dallas and one Janis Joplin show here in Dallas.
Well, that's something you'll always remember.
Oh, absolutely. But what's really memorable to me, other than the Elvis years, was when I was a booking agent for Associated Booking. Louis Armstrong came into our office in Dallas one afternoon,
Wow.
and that was a treat for me.
Are you a big Louis Armstrong fan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My dad is too. Now, when did you start doing the Elvis Presley shows?
In the 70s, because our company, as you know, they did one tour with RCA, and I guess it didn't go over so well because they were using house sound systems for Elvis, which is the same sound system you hear a hockey game over.
Right.
And so Jerry Weintraub, the story goes, as you know, kept pursuing the Colonel, and the Colonel finally granted him a audience and gave him the tour. And then Weintraub was a personal manager, not a promoter, so he came to Concerts West because he didn't know how to promote. So I say he didn't know how to promote. He knew what it was all about. But we had worked with John Denver and some of his acts. So he came to Concerts West, and we teamed up with Jerry Weintraub, and I got to tell you, it was a great ride from that point on.
Now, what was your title, and what exactly did you do for Concerts West?
I did everything. It's called a promoter, I guess, tour producer, promoter, or whatever the word you want to call.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, after the first year with the Elvis show, I was totally responsible for everything. Tom Hewlett decided that, hey, let Charlie do it, and I get the slough off. So I would get with the Colonel, figure out where we wanted to go and route the tours. They book the venues, order the tickets. And I had to scale the house, which means how many tickets at each price and where were they.
Right.
There wasn't a computer ticket company then, Joe. It was everything you did yourself. So fortunately, I had been to a lot of these arenas, and we had the other rock shows that we could use their scale from. So I had to scale that. Then I had to order the tickets and then put them on sale and do the press conferences. This was all ahead of each tour.
Right.
We'd always have somebody in the box office at every venue when it went on sale to keep the scalpers from getting tickets. We put a 10-ticket limit on everybody back then.
Now, did it get to the point where Colonel Parker wanted you and only you?
Oh yeah. I mean, after my first outing doing a show, I went straight to L.A. to meet with him, and from that point on, I guess he liked me, and we clicked, and that's all I did for the last 6.5, 7 years of Elvis's life was Elvis Presley shows. And I did a few rock shows when we weren't performing with Elvis, but very few, because the Colonel would always want me with him either in Palm Springs or Vegas, working on another tour.
Right.
I was gone 200 days a year.
Gosh, you're never home.
And I'm still married to the same lady.
Yeah, she's a great lady too. So now, when did you first meet Elvis?
Officially?
Yeah, when did you first officially meet Elvis?
Officially. Well, as I think you've read my book, right?
Right, right.
Okay. As you know, when I actually got the first time to go with them and do the tour, I was told, Tom Hewlett told me, don't speak to Elvis. Okay, fine, whatever, you know. I don't know what I'm supposed to. I don't know what I'm supposed to say that would offend anybody, but anyway, I didn't. But my job was to meet him at the limousine and take him to the dressing room. Well, obviously, Joe and Dick and those guys are Sonny. They've never been to this arena. So as we're walking, and I'm walking right beside Elvis, and Joe is on the other side or whomever, I would lean around Elvis and say, we turn right in this hallway or turn left or whatever the case may be. And after maybe 2 weeks, we were walking down this long hallway, and Elvis grabs my arm and stops me and says, who are you? I said, I'm Charles Stone. I wanted to say, I can't talk to you. But I said, I'm Charles Stone. He says, I'm Elvis Presley. As if you don't know that.
Right.
But that was his upbringing, is he was a very polite man. And I said, great, nice to meet you. From that point on, we talked, and a couple of years later, he gave me a PCB.
Wow, very cool.
But I guess he had to make the first move.
Yeah. Hey, Charles, let me ask you, was all the shows truly sold out?
Yes, yes.
Every show that Elvis ever did was sold out. And then did Elvis ask before he went on how the ticket sales in that were?
No, he knew they all sold out.
Wow, that's
And
incredible.
an Elvis event at a city, an Elvis concert was an event. It wasn't just a concert. All the hotels, the restaurants, and the city benefited from it because it was an event. It was more than just a concert.
Especially like Vegas. My gosh, Elvis reinvented Vegas.
He reinvented Vegas, but I mean, when you go to Atlanta and do 2 or 3 shows in the Omni, hardly anybody could do that. Rock groups couldn't do that. Well, I think in Fort Worth, we played 4 shows one weekend. It did 58,000 people in Fort Worth, Texas. That's unheard of.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. Now, can you tell us any last-minute screw-ups before the shows? You do anything that you remember?
I sure do. Madison, Wisconsin. I actually advanced the city in person, went over everything with the venue manager, and somehow we miscommunicated on security. So the day of the show, I roll in there. I have to be there at 10 for the production trucks to roll in with all the sound equipment and everything. So I guess about 3:30, I asked the venue manager what time our security meeting is. And he says, well, I don't know. I didn't set up anything for you. I said, what do you mean you didn't? I told you what we needed. I thought you were going to do it. Anyway, long story short is we get on the phone and start calling. Back in those days, it was called Whacking Hut, private security. I mean, Burns, every kind of private security policeman, and everybody. And this was at 3:30 in the afternoon. The show's at 8:30. And I actually got enough to do the show. But, man, I was scared. I got to tell you, I was totally scared because you could not do an Elvis show without security around the stage and in the aisles.
Right. Now, did you go to Vegas and Sarah Tahoe and that too?
Yep, I did. But I didn't have anything to do with the production or the shows, but I'd go because that's where we would get on the phone and book another tour with Colonel.
Now, were you on the Hawaii tour?
Nope, didn't go there because Tom Moffitt had plenty of people to do what I do, and they sent me out with the rock show that week.
Okay. Now, did you do the Madison Square Garden shows?
Exactly the same thing. Weintraub had a New York office, and he had plenty of people to do what I did, and they didn't need me.
Okay.
Now, could I have really gone if I wanted to? Probably, but you know.
You saw a lot of Elvis concerts, didn't you?
Yeah, and no offense, I saw quite a few. So I'd go out and do a rock show while they were doing those, but that was the only 2 times. I did have the option of going to Houston and hanging out in the Astrodome because the stock show bought the show direct. I had that choice of doing that or coming home to Dallas for a day.
Right.
That's a no-brainer. You know, I came home.
Sure, I don't blame you. Do you remember any of the death threats, Charles?
No.
No, you don't remember any of that?
Not on the road. You know, I heard he had some in Vegas, but that, like I say, I didn't get involved in the Vegas stuff.
Okay. Well, what was Vernon like?
I don't know. He very seldom even spoke. He was like someone that was in the background all the time.
Uh-huh.
You know, I'd see him, I'd speak to him, but I mean, he wasn't. He's not necessarily a real social animal, is the way I would say it.
Okay. Now,
a lot of people are social, and some are not. You know.
Right. Now, you spent a lot of time with the Colonel. Now, how did that relationship come about? I mean, you became really close friends with the Colonel.
actually, the Colonel became like a second father to me, man. He took me under his wing and became my mentor, and he was family because, man, he asked to be the godfather of my kids. I mean, he taught me so much, Joe.
Uh-huh.
And like I say, the people, when you hear people talk about Colonel, I hear that. I said, that's not the man that I knew.
I know. I say that to a lot of people.
Yeah, and but yet everybody, after Elvis died, the Colonel told me, in order for the fans to make Elvis a god, they got to make me the devil, and I'm prepared to wear that hat. It hurt him, but he was prepared to do that for Elvis.
Yeah, I mean, now you said to me before, and I've read in books that Elvis gave a lot of money to charity, but the Colonel did just as well.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He certainly did, and he did it anonymously.
Right. All right. Now, did you know that he was Dutch, and was there really a cover-up that he was Dutch?
No, he was Dutch. Absolutely.
And you knew that.
Sure, he didn't deny it.
Okay. Now, you were in the Snowman's League.
Yeah, I'm a Snowman. I got the Snowman's card and a TCB. Not a whole lot of them have both.
Now, what was the Snowman's League?
That was, as you know, the TCB was Elvis's inner circle. The Snowman's League was the Colonel's inner circle. I think Baron Hilton and Walter Annenberg were the two honorary whatever, and the Colonel called himself the potentate.
Right. So
I had to recite a poem in Vegas. I remember one of his office. I had to recite a poem in front of, I think, Weintraub and Hewlett. I mean, everybody was involved. And recite the Snowman's poem in order to get my card. You felt like you're in grade school, but you know what? Everybody had to do it.
Right.
And it was an honor to be asked to even do that. But
right. I guess they say, because I've got the RCA executives Snowman stuff. His name was Grunland.
Yeah, Grayland.
You're right. I have all his stuff, and it was said that it didn't cost you any money to become a snowman, but it cost you money to get out. So no one ever left.
That's right. No one ever left.
Now, did Colonel Parker ever open up to you, talk to you about the early Elvis, the early days, anything like that?
Oh, actually, Elvis Warren did more than the Colonel did. Tell me about it. I wish I could have been around for some of that because, man, that was history making. Not that the '70s wasn't.
Right.
But man, when I was in the 7th grade, I remember Elvis coming to my hometown. And I wanted to go see him so bad, but my parents wouldn't let me.
Right, and I never got a chance to see him either. So, what was the Colonel like beyond Elvis? I mean, after Elvis's death, what was the Colonel like? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have to be honest about that. The Colonel was probably one of the most gentle, kind souls you'll ever meet in your entire life. So gentle with kids. So many stars came to him for advice after Elvis passed. I mean, the list goes on. People wanted advice from the Colonel. And because I've got to tell you, the Colonel was a smart man. Not many people can take a star from the 50s and keep them on top for their entire life.
Right. Right.
You got to understand, during Elvis's career, the Beatles came in and just took the world by storm. And Elvis made the movies while they were doing what they were doing. When they finished, Elvis came back with his '68 comeback special. And it's like he never left, came back bigger than ever.
Right, yeah.
And when he made the movies, he was the highest paid movie star of the time.
Wow. Hey, were you around when Elvis was, back in 1973, it was said that Elvis was going to fire the Colonel. Do you remember that?
I think that happened in Niagara Falls. It was maybe 73, 74, somewhere. That, they all had their spits, but that lasted, half a day maybe?
Really?
Oh, yeah, it didn't last long. I mean, Elvis, at the end of the day, Elvis was a smart man. You're not going to get rid of the horse that brought you.
Right. Now, Colonel Parker, have you ever heard that Colonel Parker was was asked to manage the Beatles?
That's true. That's I saw the telegram myself.
Do you know where that telegram is now? Is that Graceland?
If it is at Graceland, they've got it somewhere. But I heard of a flood damaged a lot of that stuff, so I don't know.
Well, now, did you hear?
But the other telegram that was in the case with that one said, "Boys, thank you for your kind offer, but I only manage one artist at a time.
Now, did you hear
Oh,
that? Did Celine? It's also said that Celine Dion was the Colonel ever asked to manage Celine Dion or Rick
not the
Nelson?
manager, but Renee and the Colonel were friends.
Okay.
Who is now her husband, manager then, but husband now. And I remember getting a phone call from the Colonel one time. Said, "Charlie, I need a favor." I said, "Well, sure, Colonel, whatever. Go book the Hearst Coliseum in Shreveport for a show." I said, "Well, who's the act?" He said, "I'll let you know later, but just go put a hold on the building." Okay, fine. Now, this is me personally, not Concerts West.
Right.
I'm thinking, I don't have the money to put on a 10,000 seat, act of whatever can fill 10,000 seats. So he calls me next day and says, "You got it?" And I said, "Yeah, it's for a new act called Celine Dion." I'd never heard of her. He says, "If you lose any money on it, I'll cover it up." Okay, no problem. I'll take care of it. Well, that sounds like a deal to me, but I mean, how do you tell the Colonel no?
Right.
Well, as it turned out, she got a whole tour with, I don't know, some other concert company, and I didn't have to do the date. But that was in the very beginning. He was helping her from the get-go.
Wow. Now, did Ricky Nelson ever ask him to manage him?
No, he didn't ask him to manage him. He asked him to find him a manager.
Oh, okay. And they were close friends. They were close.
Absolutely. Yes, they were, and he got Greg McDonald, as you know, to manage Rick Nelson.
Right. Now, you were close to Rick Nelson yourself.
Yeah, I did some cancer tours with he and Greg. Greg was a friend of mine before he managed Ricky.
Okay.
So that all worked in, But the Colonel, like I say, the Colonel's had a hand in a lot of people's careers.
Right. Now, Charles, when did you find out that? Can you tell me about the day that Elvis passed?
Yep, I was in Portland, Maine, in the Sheraton Hotel in the Colonel's suite. There was 2 or 3 rooms in the suite. And I was in one room on the telephone, actually booking another tour. And I'll never forget, I was on the phone with Hershey, Pennsylvania, because we'd never played Hershey before. And the Colonel said, "Hang up the phone, Charlie." I said, "Just make her." He said, "Hang it up now." He got real stern. So I told the guy I'd call him right back. He said, "Come in here." And he called me and Hewlett and Miss Miller. I forgot who was there from the Elvis camp. It was Lamar or Sonny or something. I think it might have been Lamar. I don't remember. But anyway, and he said Elvis has passed away. Because he had 2 phone calls, I understand. Because I was in the other room, but he had one from Joe and one from Vernon. And Elvis has passed. I said, "Oh, my God. We had a show that night, And they turned the show plane around in midair to send it back. And at the end of the day, he said, we went to lunch. That was in the morning. We all went to lunch, and that was probably the saddest lunch I have ever had in my entire life. We hardly spoke. But the Colonel kept his composure and said, Elvis would want me to take care of his business no matter. And we all agreed with that. He would.
Right.
So he says, I got to take care of Elvis's business. So he said, "We'll go to Memphis this evening." But he said, "Charlie, you want to go to Memphis and go to the service, but you're going to still have to take care of the refunds." So I thought, I don't know, let me make a couple of calls. Come to find out, the refunds were going to be very complicated because each city, county, state had different laws and requirements. I said, as much as I'd like to go to the service, Colonel, I think that people are going to be wanting their money back tomorrow if they want to turn their tickets back in, and I got to go get that settled. So I flew back to Dallas, and boy, it became a nightmare on refunds. I think in one state, the people that didn't want their money back, we had to leave the money there 5 years.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it became, I felt like a lawyer after I got through with all the cities trying to figure out what our obligations and our legalities were on it, because all the tickets weren't turned back, as you probably know.
Right. Was the majority of them turned back for refunds?
A little over half, probably 60, 63%, something like that.
Wow, that's incredible. Now,
I mean, I'm surprised it was that high.
Wow. Now, did he ever talk to you about, everybody says how the Colonel went to the funeral in his Hawaiian shirt. Did he ever talk to you about that?
He didn't have to. I mean, that's a Colonel. We had some dinners in Las Vegas that Baron Hilton threw, and black tie, and the Colonel says, "Well, if they're black tie, I'm not coming, and neither of any of my staff." I said, "Well, Colonel, I don't mind wearing tux." He said, "No, that's not us. That's not us." Okay, fine. Then Baron Hilton said, "Okay, my guys will be in a tux. Y'all come how you want to." The Colonel was not a guy that had to dress up to impress anybody. And if you'll notice, even when Elvis was alive, you didn't see the Colonel all dressed up in a suit.
Right.
He said Elvis wouldn't expect me to wear a suit. He said he'd probably laugh at me from up there in heaven if I wore a suit to his funeral.
Was Elvis ever going to tour overseas, Charles?
Yes, we were. I had reservations to fly to London, had that last tour happened, to get the first 7 days at Wembley Arena. The first time they had 7 open days, and book it for Elvis.
And it just didn't happen.
No, I mean, he died that Monday, but I mean, can you imagine boy, that would have been so monumental.
That would have been incredible.
Everybody says, well, the Colonel wouldn't let him. Well, that's not true. We first had to talk Elvis into going. And then the Colonel wasn't going to go because he did not have a passport. He never thought he needed a passport. And don't forget, Colonel Parker had the private number of every president during his lifetime.
Right. Now, why would Elvis not want to go?
I think, like he said, why do I need to fly 8 hours? You're not going to make as much money over there as you do here.
Right.
But fly 8 hours to do something, I can go over here and do a lot more by flying an hour and a half each day, But anyway, we talked him into it.
Okay.
But it didn't happen. But the Colonel wasn't going to go because he didn't have a passport. At the end of the day, Tom Hewlett and I did everything anyway. So Elvis was comfortable with us because he knew we did it,
Mm-hmm.
So, but we were going. We actually were going.
Charles, the last TV concert that was on the 77 concert, what do you think of that concert now? And do you think it should have been aired? And do you think they'll ever release it?
The CBS TV one?
Yeah.
What do you mean, release it?
Well, they've only showed it on TV. They've never really released it for fans to buy.
Actually, I've seen it overseas for fans to buy.
Well, it's been bootlegged, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been bootlegged in a very beautiful box set, actually, that I do not have. I know the ones that you're talking about. But do you think they'll ever legally release it?
Oh, I think probably they will someday. But yeah, and everybody says, well, Elvis was overweight, his face looked fat. Hey guys, at the end of the day, that's it. That's the last one.
Right, and he still sounded incredible.
Oh my God, his voice didn't hurt, so it doesn't matter what he looked like. That's a piece of history as well.
Right. Now, we're almost to the end. Thank you for staying on so long with me, Charles.
Who do I send the bill to?
Yeah, Elvis Online. Okay. Hey, Charles, after the concerts, after the tours, the guys would get together. And they would have this party that Elvis would not be at. You know what I'm talking about. There was another
the last night of the tour.
Okay. Did Elvis know about?
That's for the tour diary, right?
Right, the tour diary, right? Did Elvis know about these? That these were going on?
Absolutely, because there's one of them that's an audio diary rather than written. And if you'll remember, I think you probably heard it. It's when all of a sudden everybody starts laughing and clapping right in the middle of it.
Right.
That's because Felton went and got one of Elvis's jumpsuits and came walking in and pretended he was Elvis in the interview.
Right. And
we were cracking up because here comes Felton in the door in Elvis's costume.
Now, what do you think about? Now, Elvis knew about it.
I'm sorry?
Elvis knew about these.
Oh yeah, because he let Felton use the jumpsuit.
Okay, there you go. Because a lot of people get angry about when they hear this, and
well, it's triple X rated.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is. Okay, you were the co-producer for the TCB Gang. That's the Way It Was DVD. Is there ever going to be another DVD in the future?
Actually, Sam and Dick and I have talked about making another one. And I wouldn't be surprised if someday we do it.
Oh, that would be great. And I'd help you sell it again this time.
Yeah. That one was only 2,000 copies actually printed that wasn't bootlegged. So that's a pretty rare piece right now.
Yeah. Okay, Charles, what are you doing now?
What am I doing now?
What are you doing now?
I'm managing a Elvis tribute show, Greg Parker, and I'm managing a group called the Highwaymen, Waylon, Willie, and Johnny Cash.
Oh, cool. Well, Charles, thank you very much for being on Elvis Online. It's good to talk to you again, my friend.
Thank you very much, Joe, and call me anytime.
Take care.